My name is Russ Simon. I have the pleasure and honor of introducing our moderator and guest today. Our moderator is Lindsey Ivie. Happy to have you here. She is the founder of Feldfest Conference and partner in Ivie League, helping companies scale through strategic partnerships and events. And our guest today is Allyse Jackson. We're so happy you're here. Allyse is the founder and CEO of Beehive Meals, one of the nation's fastest growing meal prep companies and trusted solutions for busy families seeking convenient, home-cooked meals. Since launching in 2019, she has grown the company from a local startup to a regional powerhouse, delivering more than 3.5 million meals across 24 states west of the Mississippi River. Under her leadership, Beehive Meals has been recognized as one of America's top small businesses by U.S. Chamber of Commerce, while Allyse herself was named Utah Business 2024 CEO of the Year for her innovation, vision, and industry impact. Beyond her entrepreneurial success, Allyse is a proud mom of 4 young children, balancing the demands of building a thriving company with the joys of raising a family. Her journey reflects a passion for creating meaningful solutions that serve both customers and communities, and a commitment to proving that women can thrive as both leaders and mothers. So please join me in welcoming Allyse and Lindsey. Thank you.
That's a good way to kick off the conversation. I feel like I'm just up here with a friend, so it's kind of fun. So we had the opportunity, thanks to, there's a group called Female Founders Only that Mackenzie with Thread started, and we got to go to Morocco together a few years ago, and it was an adventure. A few of us got E. coli, a few of us.
Me being one.
Oh, you were.
Yeah,
you were
and,
one of us.
And I lost my luggage.
Oh
it
yeah,
was
that's another
quite
thing.
yeah.
There's stories. There was lots of stories. I think we bonded through trauma a little bit, but it was a lot of fun. But I wanted to start with that. We were talking. So we both have 4 kids. Kind of talking a little bit about kind of juggling that and how like your typical 9 to 5 doesn't work in that structure of having 4 kids, especially in the elementary school age. But a lot of people might not know this, but you started you were a stay-at-home mom for a few years. But I would love to know a little bit more, and I'm sure we all do as well, is like what got you from that stay-at-home mom, juggling that into a full-blown, very successful business.
Yeah, so back, it was end of 2019. I was a stay-at-home mom. I had a 2-year-old and a 9-month-old. And for reference, I didn't graduate college. I have no formal business background. And my husband was working for a small business here in Utah at the time. And unfortunately, he was there for about 2 years. And at the end of that 2 years, unfortunately, the owner of that business was not making great financial decisions. And we all know in small business world, one bad financial decision can really like tank the entire company. And so it was a situation where, you know, like payroll would go to hit and like no money would hit our bank account. And it'd be like, okay, like I don't think this is going to be around much longer. Like I don't think you're going to have a job. And so my husband went to work one morning. We have 2 kids, 2 young kids. And it was kind of like, okay, like we have a mortgage we need to pay. Like what is something that I am good at that could make money, that could just get us through until he is able to find another job. We didn't want him to have to rush into the first thing that he was offered. So it was kind of like, what can I do to just make ends meet for the short term? So this was about August 2019. And Adam, my husband, he goes to work. I wake up one morning, I pull out my cell phone and I pull up the notes app and I write on there like things, it was titled, things I'm good at that could make money. And again, I was a stay-at-home mom. So it was things that were very like homemaker things. Like I like to crochet, I like to bake. Freezer meals was on that. And for those that maybe don't know what I'm talking about, a freezer meal is typically like you put all the raw ingredients into like a Ziploc bag, right? And then you put it in your freezer, and then at a later time you cook it in a slow cooker. So I've always done that for my own family. So I have recipes. I'm used to prepping them, doing all the planning, all of that. So I was like, okay, as I look at my list, I'm like, what is something that is maybe, baking, it's selling, a cupcake at a time, or, crocheting, it's a lot of hours for this thing. So I was like, okay, freezer meals, I could do that. I could do all the shopping. I could prep it for people, and I could actually deliver it to their doorstep just in my local community. So I decided that was going to be what I was going to pursue. I went to Adobe stock photography because I had no picture. I didn't have content of what this product was. And I got some stock photos, put a little picture collage together, and then threw it up on like a mommy Facebook group in Farmington, Utah, where we live. And so it was, basically a post that said, like, here's 10 meals. I will prep one of each. Here's the cost. I will deliver it to you in September. I gave myself a month. And immediately that first day, it was such a huge response. And it was like person after person saying, like, yes, like, please take my money. And they're like, how do I pay for this? And I was like, oh, I don't know. So I hurried and set up a Venmo account. And I was like, I don't know, like, pay me half now and maybe half like when I deliver. I don't know. So they like started Venmoing me. And that first day I did $10,000 in sales. And my husband was at work. I had not consulted him on any of this. And so I call him and I was like, I think I just started a business and I don't know what we're doing, and I have to deliver a lot of freezer meals in September. And so luckily I gave myself that month because we were really excited. I'd taken all these people's money. I didn't know what I was going to do. And we started telling family about it. And my mother-in-law calls me and she's like, you realize you can't do this out of your house, right? And I said, oh, I didn't realize that. And so it's like, you need a commercial kitchen. Like it was like baked goods, you can do that out of your house. Cookies, cakes, cupcakes, all of that thing. Raw meat and vegetables, that's a no-go. You need a commercial kitchen. So I needed to find a commercial kitchen. In that process, I realized I can't just have your typical food handler's permit. I have to have, as the owner, a food safety manager certificate, which is actually a college course with a proctored test. And I found one at Utah State, which was do it at your own pace. And I did that in like a week because I had to have this to get certified. So I had to do all this prep work leading up to my deliveries in September. And so we get through September, and I was like, okay, like this went okay. There were some bumps and things that we had to overcome. And then I was like, hey, like I can do this again next month. So I came up with 10 different meals, posted it again on the mommy Facebook group for October, and I sold out immediately. And it just like continued. I'd basically like post each month and sell out, post each month, sell out. And I was one person, and it was kind of like, okay, like I can only take on so much. So Adam left that company by that point. He was looking for other jobs because this was just supposed to be the side hustle, just supposed to get us by. And we also thought it was a really good time, him being unemployed, me just starting a business, already having a 10-month-old and a 2-year-old, to get pregnant. So we got pregnant with our third. And I was extremely tired that first trimester. I don't get sick. I get so tired to the point I do not want to get out of bed. So trying to run this business, being pregnant, it was about February of 2020. I was like, okay, I need some help. I'm exhausted. I brought on my first 2 part-time hires just to help me prep the meals, deliver them. I think I hired them for maybe 10, 15 hours a week. Like that's all I need help with. And March of 2020 hits. And Adam, thankfully, he found a job. He ended up taking a job, and he started that. And his start date was March 16th of 2020.
And we all know what day that was.
And that was the day everything shut down. So he basically showed up to work, got a laptop, and they said, go home. And so he heads home. He's going to now be working from home. March hits, and I am still just posting in my mommy Facebook group each month. And when March hits, I just started seeing the demand doubling, basically month over month. And I'd hired a couple people, so I was like, okay, we can take on more. And then I was like, oh, shoot, I need to hire more people. And so we hire more people, and we continued to grow. And again, I was pregnant through all of this. And so month over month growth. For reference, so I started end of 2019. With that, September through December, I did about $30,000 of Shopify trackable sales that we can actually go back to. There was stuff on Venmo that originally happened, but about $30,000 of sales through Shopify. And growth through 2020, pandemic hits, and we just start seeing growth month after month. We ended that first full year at about $1 million. And keep in mind, the majority of that was like the last 6 months of the year. It was like January revenue was like $8,000.
And how pregnant were you?
Oh, so I had my baby in July. And I took a 2-day maternity. I basically went back. I was in the hospital for 48 hours and then went back.
Oh my goodness.
So we were continuing to grow. We ended that year with about 20 employees. And we had moved into a space of our own by that point because I rented a commercial kitchen before that. We moved into our own space and it was 1,200 square feet. And I was like, this is going to last us forever. It's so big. You guys know 1,200 square feet's not that big. And we moved into there and we grew out of that in 3 months. And so we had to go find another space. So I found a flex space not too far, and it was 3,000 square feet. I was like, this is more than double. Like, this is going to last us forever. And so we moved into that space. And that was beginning of 2021. And throughout 2021, so we did $1 million, right, in 2020. 2021, we ended that year at $8 million. And so just that growth, and keep in mind, we are our own producer. We are our own manufacturer. We have to source all of our own ingredients through a food pandemic, essentially, and scale this thing. And so we get through that year. We grew out of our new 3,000 square foot space within like a month. And then it's a flex space. So there were spaces next door. So I basically went to the neighbor and I said, I will pay you to leave, essentially. Like, I need your space. We'd pay out the neighbor, and then we'd grow more, and I'd go to the next neighbor and I'd be like, I need you to leave. I will pay you to leave. And I continually did that until we took over our entire building, which at that point was like 10,000 square feet. And as we continued to grow, our landlord of that building bought the land next to us, which was undeveloped, and built us another 15,000 square feet. So we moved and took over that whole building. So now we're in about 25,000 square feet, and still to this day. And we, have continued to scale and grow throughout the years. So that's kind of like where we were, kind of where we're at. We actually just purchased a 60,000 square foot space that we're moving into in the next 4 months, which we're super excited. That'll actually help us. We should not grow out of that soon, hopefully. Yes. Or that's a really good problem to have if we do. But that's kind of like how we started and a little bit of where we're at today.
That is, and then you've had 2 babies.
Yes, so I had, my third.
Yeah.
We took a 4-year gap in between. I realized that it wasn't smart to have our 4th close. So there's a 4-year gap. I have a 1-year-old now.
Okay.
Yeah. I did take about a 4-week maternity leave with that
Okay,
one,
you got like you did a little bit.
I did a little better.
But going back to that, it's interesting because when we were chatting just the other day on the maternity side, you said you made some changes based on your more recent experience to your own.
Yeah, so we employ a lot of females in our company. We are very much, female founded, female run. Something I'm super proud about as we've built the company is a lot of our leadership has been built up from the bottom. For example, my director of operations, she started with me. She was a mom of 4. Still is. But she started working for me. She had 4 kids, and her youngest were 18-month-old twins. And she started working for me at our first kitchen, working 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. at night. Like, basically, she would put her kids to bed, and then she would come in. And she would print labels. She would help. We used to do all of our own delivery logistics. So, like, all of our own vehicles, vans. We were the last mile delivery to the door. We did that for the first 5 years of our business. And so she would help, like, put delivery routes together for the next day and all these things. Pretty quickly after she started for me, it was like, okay, I actually see something new and I need you full time. So I approached her. I gave her an offer. It was something that her husband was able to actually quit his job and be the stay-at-home parent to be able to come and be our office manager. And then since then, she has just continually grown in the company and now runs my entire operations. We have a lot of stories like that where people will start kind of in that entry level and then they get a kind of taste of working and like our growth and like wanting to be a part of the company and they want to grow with us. A lot of those being females where they were the mom, they needed mom hours. Like
Yeah.
we have a shift purposely in production that functions from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's that they can drop kids off in the morning, come in at 9, they're gone by 2, they're home before school gets out. And so we've been able to cater to this demographic, and as they like get into the company, they're able to kind of shine. And we are able to see that, and then they eventually want to be a part of this full time. So we've been able to build them up. So with that, we have a lot of females and a lot of moms. And after having my last baby a year ago, so we did pay maternity beforehand. It was 6 weeks, and then they could take an additional 6 weeks unpaid. We didn't have any type of paternity. And then I had a baby a year ago, and I was like, holy crap. Like, this is so hard. And like, I mean, I went back after 4 weeks. That's just stupid. I'm the owner.
Yeah, we do that to ourselves.
Yeah, we do that to ourselves.
Yeah.
But these women that are also having babies, I'm like, that's not realistic for them and their situations. And so we actually went to like, nope, full 12 weeks paid maternity for those that are in some sort of like salaried leadership position, which we have a lot of females in, and then paid 4 weeks paternity. Because it's like, I want the husbands in those situations to be home. So we're actually coming up, I've got a couple people pregnant, wives are pregnant, plus some employees, and there's some critical people that are going to be out all at the same time here in the next little bit. And like, it's just so cool that our team in general, even if it's different departments, are like stepping up so that these people can take time to be home.
Well, and it's interesting for that as well, because in them stepping up, they're getting that experience, and they're also learning a role that they might, because I think that's where people thrive, is sometimes you get stuck in the same position, but when you're almost like forced into certain things, people step up and they thrive in that situation. So I'd love to, with that, you've done such a good job providing, because I think that's the issue. I'm a mom of 4 as well, and I joke that I'm unemployable because I can't do a 9-to-5 job. But what can companies here who are a little bit more structured in their schedule, how can they be flexible, or what can they do to help empower more women who do have elementary school or high school age kids to work for them?
Yeah, I think it's finding those roles. Obviously, there are certain roles. My leadership does have to be full-time, right? And we actually function, a lot of our leadership likes the early hours, so we actually function from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m.
That's amazing.
And so it's like they're actually up before their kids. Their spouse typically gets kids off to school, but then they're still home before school gets out. So that's worked for us. We're our own manufacturer, so like that works also for our production team. And we're able to have different shifts within there that work for different demographics. But I think it's trying to figure out certain roles that can accommodate those kind of things, right? Production, we're making food. We were able to figure out, again, production runs from 6 to 2, but I can have a shift that starts at 9 a.m. and just structure it within, it's more of just a 5-hour shift. And then we have a shift that actually functions from 6 to 11. And so that actually caters to a lot of our college students. So we're able to pull from that demographic early in the morning. And so I think it's really trying to identify what type of talent or team do you want getting in the door, and are there certain roles that you can cater to them that still benefit both them and the company?
Yeah, and that's what I find too, is when I was working more of like the structured 9-to-5, I found that a lot of times it's like, especially if you're like a creative, or depending on what the position is, there are certain roles where you have to be on the phone and you have to be doing meetings, but some people thrive, like I do a lot of my work from like 11 o'clock at night to 1 in the morning when my kids are asleep, and so I think that's cool that you have that flexibility. I wanted to dive in a little bit because I work with my husband as well, just like the working dynamic. For us, it's kind of nice because we can tag team a lot of things. So how's that worked well for you, and what are things you've had to kind of navigate and kind of figure out between the two of you to make it, the flow of like living with your spouse, working with your spouse, doing it all together?
Yeah, and there is this interesting dynamic for us in particular where technically I'm the CEO of the company, he's the CMO. So his background is in digital marketing. I mentioned I don't have any formal education background. However, as I built this company, I've realized I'm really good at like the logistics and the ops side of it. So it's worked out really well where, one, we own very different pieces of the company. I can trust him to run the marketing and like that side of things, where he can trust me to run the operational side of it. So if we were stepping on each other's toes and had the same skill set, that would not work. And I don't think we would be able to work together. Challenges are definitely there for sure, especially when, as an entrepreneur, like it does not shut off. And so when it's, 9 p.m. at night, kids are in bed and it's like pillow talk becomes business, it's like, oh, that's like maybe a little bit of a problem. So we are trying to still figure out what that balance is. And it just, as the company continues to grow, we bring on more individuals to take things off of our plate, which has been nice. We obviously had to grow into that. So but also then you're managing more people. So it's like that dynamic of like, yay, we don't have to do this, but now we have to manage more people. So, it's definitely hard and I don't have perfect answers, but one thing is we handle very different pieces of the business. And I think that's critical for us.
Yeah, I get that. There's sometimes at night I'm like, do not talk to me about work. I'm like, I am done talking about work right now, because it's so hard when you're with your spouse and like it's just top of mind, and you're like, and you're financially in it together. You're like every aspect of your life, but it's also very cool. I found with like, hey, I'm going to go to this. You watch the kids. Like you have a lot of flexibility.
Yeah. And that's the really unique thing about our relationship is because I am CEO, there's been kind of this decision made in our relationship that like kids are sick. Like who goes in? It's me. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, Adam has really stepped up, like basically morning routine is both of us. It is not one or the other. Like it's kind of like we have a 1-year-old and I feel like he takes one of our attention because he's freaking nuts. Like he's 18 months and into everything. And then the other person has to handle the other 3, right? Getting them off to school and all these. So it's very much, we have to tag team. And we kind of have this thing now where it's really important to me that we eat breakfast together and then we eat dinner together. So it's like, and then everything can happen in between there. And so it's this like, we do morning routine together and then we are sitting down as a family for dinner.
Well, and that's the beautiful thing about what you've built, right? And kind of jumping into your why. And you probably get this as well. When you're a mom, you have 4 kids, it's like, it's a really hard decision to like, I'm not going to see my kids all day, every day, like making that shift. So I think for a lot of women I see, especially here in Utah, when they're building, like there's a deeper why to why they're doing what they're doing. And so I'd love to, that kind of ties into the family time, but love to hear a little bit more about that, what your why is.
Yeah, I mean, obviously originally why I started the company was out of necessity to provide for my family, right? And I also think had it not been, so I am so passionate about our product in general. When I first started, I didn't realize the power that there is in food necessarily, whether that's our customers who pay for the product. When I meet them and they come up to me, I've had women in tears about how I make them feel like they're a good mom because they're able to put dinner on the table, or whether it's they're working full time or they're not the greatest cooks, or like whatever the reason, like there is this like mom guilt that will come in. Like we have these humans that we have to feed every night. And like, if you don't have dinner on the table, like that just brings an emotional, like emotions into it. Right. So there's that aspect. The other aspect is as we've grown this company, it's been really cool for us to use our product to give back to the communities. We're able to we work pretty heavily with Utah Foster Care. They reached out to me pretty early on asking if they could purchase meals at a discounted rate, basically to help foster families. That fostering is such a whole nother like level of child like care. And foster care is very near and dear to my heart. I actually have a niece and a nephew who were adopted through the foster care system. My sister fostered to adopted too. And so when they reached out, it was like, no, we just want to donate. So now we work with them on a monthly basis, providing meals for foster families throughout Utah. Another thing that we do is we've partnered very closely with First Lady Abby Cox on her Give Back to Teachers, Show Up for Teachers initiative. And we work with her and her team in donating to schools across Utah. And it's to the teachers, all the admin, all the staff, where we go in and we donate meals to an entire school. And we do that multiple times throughout the year, particularly first of the year and kind of teacher appreciation. And then we're actually coming up on a season of giving campaign that we do every year. Yeah. And this is something that we do internally where we basically throw it out to the public of like, who needs help? And like, tell me their story and we will donate meals. And it's like, it'll be anonymously donated. Like, it's more just like, we will send meals to these families and these individuals that are going through hard times. And that one is crazy because the response that we get is just like, there is so much need just in our community. And being able to provide any sense of relief is just, through food, is just so cool. So I'm very passionate about our product in itself and like what we're able to do with that. The other aspect is I'm really proud of what we've built from a company and kind of what we touched on, where we've built a lot of our team members up from the bottom. And it's probably a lot of people, like I could go through each one of our individuals, and it's like a lot of them probably didn't plan on having a full-time thing or like being the breadwinner of their family or like, right? These opportunities that we've built a company and a culture with a lot of females running it that maybe wouldn't have had the opportunity in a different setting. So yeah. I'm just really passionate about one, product, and then two, what we're building internally.
I love everything about what you've built, and it's so powerful because I've had that happen where I'm like, I am barely trying to survive here, and I order like have your meal, throw it in a crock pot, and I feel like I'm a good mom. But something, we're gonna open it up to Q&A here in a minute, but something I wanted to touch on, because I'm just coming out of, just like your founding story like hits home with me, just like specifically right now, because there's this idea. I'm like, I was watching a play. It was like a high school musical play called Hadestown, and there's a part in it where he's getting pulled from side to side, and they're singing this line that says, "Why do you swim upstream?" Like, and I feel like that ties into entrepreneurship and why do we choose, in a lot of ways, a harder path, right? But the word that came to my mind is delusion. But it's almost, in a way, you have to be so delusional about what you're building and what you, like your whole founding story is like, I just threw it on a Facebook group and I sold, and you took the course. Like, what's advice you would give to someone who's like in the thick of it right now, or looking to, like, maybe fears getting away of them kind of chasing their dreams or chasing what they want to build?
Yeah, I think, well, one, it's like when I did this, I didn't think through it at all. It was kind of like, I think sometimes you overthink things, right? And you have to think through it to some extent. But I do think there are aspects of like, people will build and build and build and build and then never sell or never launch, or like they need the perfect this or the that, where our mantra in Beehive Meals has really been, oh no, we'll figure it out. Like, we'll do something and it's like, oh no, like we'll figure it out. And so there is that aspect. I feel like everything in our business, whether big or small, and there have been some really big, hard things that we have had to overcome, we've been truly able to figure them out. If you get creative enough. And so I think there's that aspect. The other aspect is, so my husband, Adam, when we were first married, he was in his MBA program at the U. And he had an entrepreneurial class. And his professor there always talked about entrepreneurship as like a game. Essentially, it doesn't need to be this viewed as this, like, I have to quit. Like, I have to mortgage the house, I have to quit the job, I have to go all in, I have to, basically do everything. It can be a side hustle. It can be the side thing. It can, if you make $5, you're an entrepreneur, like you've won. So it's like viewing it as this game. And as you're playing this game, you're getting reps in, you're practicing, right? So he compares it to surfing in this aspect of when somebody is learning to surf, you are not going to go out and ride the big, massive wave the first time, right? You're going to practice on the small whitewater waves. And so just getting started in something is going to get you that practice. I mean, so we talk about Beehive Meals and the growth, and it's been great. When Adam was in his entrepreneur class, his final was basically write on a piece of paper if you're going to start a business someday. Like, that was the final. And if you passed if you said yes, you failed if you said no. So everybody said yes. But while he was there, it was kind of like, okay, like, what am I going to do? So Adam actually went to Alibaba, and he found some wooden sunglasses, very generic, and he threw it up on Indiegogo. So he actually started this business. He did $9,000 in that campaign. It was like, sweet. It paid for our product, our first round of product. They were just a very generic pair of sunglasses. Next round, we're like, hey, we're going to get more creative with this. So we made, and I say we, he did this. This was not me. I did customer service. He did these wooden sunglasses that had etchings down the side. So it was like they were a little bit more unique. We launched that on Kickstarter that summer, and it did $270,000. And then in 30 days. So next year we did a different, it was like titanium fronts, wooden sides. Launched that, it did $280,000. So that was like a baby wave for us, which still seemed big at the time for us, right? We ended up exiting that company. We learned a lot in that business. We had partners that we realized partners will make or break you. In that scenario, it broke us, and we had to exit the company. So we learned a lot. That was our baby wave. So when Beehive Meals came around, we were able to actually take the opportunity and grow it to what it is today. I don't think we would be here today if we did not have that first run.
It's so interesting how that works, because like in the moment where things don't work out because of different reasons altogether, but then you look back at it, you're like, how much did you learn that you take from that business, and you're now able, like, it just made you execute quicker and know what to learn from.
Well, and to that point, I talk about partners. We learned partners wasn't ideal for us in certain circumstances, and a lot of it's because we were the idea and the driving factor, and our partner was like the money guy. And we got to the point where you don't need the money guy anymore, but he's 50% partner. It's like, what do we do? And so we ended up, exiting. And so with Beehive Meals, we've ran this company extremely differently. We still own 100% of the business. I've been approached to take investment on, and I've said no, because I don't want the money guy. I want to grow this how I want to grow. We've been profitable since day one. We've cash flowed the entire business. We were debt free until I just bought a building. But other than that, it's been done the way that we've wanted to do it, and not anybody else.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I wanted to open it up now to give some time for the audience to ask questions, but I've learned a lot. I didn't know all this about you, so it's been fun.
There are a ton of food safety regulations, and I'm sure your first week-long cram session hasn't covered that as you've grown. How have you managed those as you've grown?
Yeah, the really cool thing about starting a business in Utah is they actually have a lot of, even a lot of our governing agencies are very much like help the small business, right? So we're not governed by the health department. We're actually governed by the Utah Department of Agriculture, because we're raw product. We do raw product. It's not cooked. Our customer cooks it. And so as we were growing, they were very helpful in being, I'll be honest, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. And they helped walk us through everything. Now we're at the point where we're experts inside and out, and we've hired consultants and brought in and so many certifications and all these things. The difference between starting here in Utah, so we actually, at one point, we were going to expand, and our expansion plan was to put facilities throughout the nation. We started in Arizona. And I always say, if I had started my business in Arizona, I would have failed, because it's the same regulations, but they are not willing to help you figure it out. And so I think that is the unique thing about being here in Utah. And just with like our leadership here, they are very small business centered, that they are really here to help you and not like shut you down.
So we haven't met. I'm Heather Nemelka and the founder of Elevare, and you sponsored our Elevare Summit at Adobe in September. So I have a special place in my heart for Beehive Meals. What have been the biggest challenges you've faced as a female entrepreneur and navigated a world that is heavily male for the most part?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting one because I do think that's like a hot topic where it's, females are underrepresented or these different things. I think for me, and I don't know if it's like a naivety, I don't feel like I've ran into that a lot as far as like any discrimination or things like that. Like I feel like I've been very respected in a lot of like the space. And I don't know if it's like I just show up and I expect to be respected. But I don't necessarily feel underappreciated or underrepresented. I feel like I've earned a lot of what I've done, and I feel like I've been recognized for that. So again, I think Utah has actually, and particularly, I've been recognized a lot from Utah Business, like in their different awards. There was, CEO of the Year, which was true. I didn't know I was nominated for it, so that was actually really unexpected. And so I really feel like I've been given recognition up to this point.
I heard actually Tiffany said this in a panel. She said, show up to the table like you're meant to be there. Yeah. So I think that makes a big difference as well.
I'm Michael with Mountaintop, and you mentioned that at one time you had this plan to expand, to different facilities across the country. What now is your big vision, and what are the biggest challenges you see kind of ahead of you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So give a little bit of background. So when I first started the company, we did all of our own delivery logistics. So that means I had refrigerated vehicles. We got up to a fleet of about 20 vehicles, and that was able to serve Utah, Idaho, Nevada, Arizona, and Colorado. So we were able to last mile delivery to all of those. And as we were trying to expand, I had mentioned we put in a facility in Arizona. We were going to produce there. We were going to deliver there. We ended up pulling the production side back because we realized that it was a lot more efficient and cost effective for us to do one centralized location. We just have a bigger buying power here in Utah. It's where we started. And so we went to where we just used Arizona as like a holding facility, and we'd deliver from there. So that was going to kind of be our route that we were going to take. And as we were in 5 states, it got to be this kind of daunting, like we have liability of vehicles on the road, crappy weather happens, and like I've got people in snowstorms. Like I didn't want that to continue to expand that way. So it was last year, about mid 2024, we met as a team, and it was kind of like, okay, we need to come up with a different model. And we ended up figuring out being able to a certain type of packaging, dry ice, all the things that we could go shipping. So a year ago, we launched shipping, and that allowed us to get with UPS and FedEx anywhere that they could get ground in 48 hours. So that opened like California, Oregon, Washington, which has been so great. This last little bit, and so then we've been trying to figure out like how are we going to continue to expand more east. And at that point, we had looked at like, well, maybe we do a hub model, and you have 3 or 4 hubs throughout. We're still centralized production, and then we're cold freighting it to these different areas. And it gets a little tricky with just inventory management. Our menu changes every single month. So if I send product somewhere and it doesn't sell that month, I would have to either like pull it back or just donate it, get rid of it, whatever. And then you lose out. So we we're able to, just with our relationships with like UPS and FedEx, our volumes are are pretty good in the 12 states that we're in, that we were able to negotiate rates with our carriers that allow us to actually go nationwide, still from Utah, in just a 2-day air model. And then eventually, it's still pricey, and we eat a lot of the costs on that shipping. And then long term, we'll kind of see where our customer demographic is really heavy in, and then we'd put hubs eventually. And so that's kind of now our expansion. So we're in 24 states now. More from, again, we're our own manufacturer and we can only, like, I don't want to extend us too much. So we're going to look at expanding nationwide in the next 3 to 6 months as we feel like we can handle it.
My name is Pimi Lopez, and I have had a couple of businesses, and I do agree that it is much easier owning and starting a business here in Utah. I applaud the government leadership for that. Just real quick, I'm amazed by your story, first of all, and your fantastic growth that your husband has stepped in to help you along the way. Have you ask individuals that are further down the road with their businesses and their growth, maybe similar models, I'm not really sure. If you'd run into something that you're thinking, gosh, maybe we ought to pick his brain or her brain and see how they did this, how they expanded nationally, for example, or how they dealt with, rapid business growth. If they, in fact, thought it was a smart idea not to include investors, and I do like the idea that you have not done that so far. I didn't do that either. But at any rate, just wondering if you have sought out those types of mentors, if you will.
Yeah, I think over the last couple of years, I've been in more of a spot where I've been able to kind of get more out and network. And so I think I've made a lot more of those connections more recently. I think early on, it was just trying to keep my head above water, and it's just trying to kind of like figure it out as I go. Again, this was never supposed to grow into what it was. And it wasn't for a while. It was like, no, this is still the side hustle. And it's like, okay, this isn't a side hustle anymore. So yes, and I feel like as we've continued to grow, we've been more open to taking on like consultants, right, who have been in the industry. I mean, we've taken on people in consulting. Even though my husband runs the marketing side, we've brought in pretty heavy-hitting CMO consultants to just kind of like almost reaffirm that what we're doing is the right thing. And it's just, you just need to spend more money, right? So it's kind of like we'll bring in, people who are industry experts, either consult with them, network with them, just kind of gauge if what we're doing is the right thing, and then go more all in on those things.
Well, I think what's powerful is that you're owning that still. So like you're getting the advice. Yeah. I think the issue that you'll have with consultants sometimes is like they don't have that ownership in the company. Yeah. And they're juggling a few different clients. So I think that's a really good strategic move, is to have like that foundational CMO and then bring in people.
So I've used a lot of these companies like Home Chef, Blue Apron, Every Plate, HelloFresh, they're pretty big brands, and they have their they have their different tiers and stuff. Like, how are you able to compete against them? Like, what's your niche that makes you stand out?
Yeah, so a lot of the national brands are going to be few different differences. One, they're going to run probably more like $8 to $12 per serving, and it's typically like they're more targeted towards like your individual or maybe like 2 to 3 people. We are closer to that, like $3 to $4 per serving, and we're more geared towards the family. Like I am chasing families. Where our product serves, we have 3 different sizes, and it serves anywhere from 4, 6, or 8 people. So it's kind of that idea that it's like throw it in the slow cooker in the morning, come home and dinner's ready. And then we provide the base of the meal, and it allows our customers to serve it how they want, right? Do you want to serve it over rice? Do you want to serve it as pasta? Do you want to serve it as a sandwich? We have all these different options on how to actually serve our product, which is just, it's more unique from these other companies where either they're sending you a tray and it's like, this is what it is, or they're sending you all the ingredients in a recipe and it's like, make this. And so it just allows for more flexibility. We started here in Utah. Freezer meals are a very prominent thing in like the mommy blogging, industry here. And so it's really caught fire here. And then as we've continued to expand, it's just finding those areas that are very similar to like the Utah kind of demographic, and we've really taken off in those areas.
Cool. We'll probably have one more question. She has to head down to Provo, so I want to give her a few minutes if you guys want to come up and chat, just to give her that buffer time. So probably one more question.
Hi, Allyse. 2 things. First of all, bravo. I am so impressed and so proud of you. I mean, we have no relationship. It's just like, what a wonderful story. So good for you. The second, and I know the answer is probably going to be no, I would love to see you on Shark Tank. I just think that would be amazing. And that's it.
So it's funny. So I love Shark Tank for one, and we actually joke that I have no formal education in in business, and how I've come into running my business, learning about business is from reading books and watching Shark Tank. So my education comes from Shark Tank. I think that would be so fun to go through the pitch process. I don't want to give equity up in my company, so that is I am very happy scaling, growing. We've started leveraging debt more to continue to grow. And at this point, I just love having full control.
I would go on Shark Tank just for the publicity and turn them all down.
There you go.
There you go. Don't say that right now.
I want $5 million for 5% of my company.
Let me in.
Yeah.
That's true. There you go.
Yeah. No, that would be fun. And I actually have a lot of friends who went on Shark Tank, and they actually went in and pitched, and the sharks were actually like, "You don't need us." Yeah. It's kind of like, no, you do. You're doing a good job. Yeah. That's fun.
Well, thank you. That was wonderful. I want to give you a few minutes if people have questions, but I know you'll have to jolt out here in a minute, so I want to give you some buffer for that. But I really enjoyed. It was awesome when the audience, you guys had so many great questions, and I love your story.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for your time. And then, anything else we need on the wrap-up side? Did you want to add anything?
I won't add anything, but let's thank our moderator and guest today. Thank you so much. Wonderful.